But first, to an exclusive on Sky Sports News with one of the companies coming under scrutiny for social media abuse. Facebook, who own Instagram, agreed to give us an interview to talk about the number of footballers being racially abused on its platform over the last few weeks and the measures being taken to stop the trolls. It comes on the day that Instagram announced new features, which will mean accounts who send abuse via direct message will be disabled quicker.
It is horrifying to have to see the sort of abuse that any one person has to go through, especially these individuals based on who they are. That's why we're making the announcement on taking stricter measures against people who violate our rules, specifically in Instagram direct messaging, where to date we would have placed them in a block for a set amount of time. Going forward, we will actually be removing those accounts altogether instead of extending that time, which allows us to move more quickly against these accounts in Instagram direct messaging.
The new measures being brought in are mostly aimed at direct messages, which Instagram says is harder to address than public comments, as they currently don't use technology to proactively detect abuse or bullying in DMs. So here are the key points then. Instagram is promising to remove the accounts of people who continuously send abusive direct messages, although no number of messages is specified for this to happen and no timescale is promised on the removal. The platform says it will disable new accounts specifically created to get around its messaging restrictions. It says it is committed to cooperation with UK law enforcement, and Instagram say they look forward to working with the Football Association and the government on issues on and offline. Instagram claims it's more challenging to monitor DMs as they are private conversations, but they hope to enable an option for its users to turn off direct messages. They say the feature will be available to everyone soon.
We, as a company, recognize the toll that sort of abuse can have when you have to deal with it, which is why we are consistently working on improving our features, and we know that there's more we can do. I really want to emphasize, and I know that it sounds repetitive, but together, what we've done with football associations and football players to educate on the resources that are at hand and the features that they can use is really what I want to be able to emphasize in this conversation today, is encouraging people to use features that we've continued to roll out over the last few years, but also to just make clear that today's announcement is part of our long-standing commitment to stopping that hate, but also part of our ongoing commitment to improving on how we can do that.
So do you think these go far enough then, these slight tweaks that are being made today?
I think the changes we are announcing today are part of our commitment to more accountability in terms of they are part of a larger strategy of our commitment to stopping this hate. They are part of the previous features that we've rolled out. What we're doing today, future features, is all a small part in stopping this sort of abuse on the platform. But racism in football is a lot bigger than social media platforms. There are conversations that need to happen offline as well if we're all going to take responsibility for stopping this abuse.
The company is also highlighting the current options available to its users, which include comment filters. So they enable people to prevent offensive words, phrases or emojis being used in their comments on posts. Instagram says it is using artificial intelligence to warn people when they're about to post something that might be hurtful. Between July and September 2020, action was taken on 6.5 million pieces of hate speech, including direct messages. Instagram has revealed that 95% of those were found before anyone reported it. Questions have also been raised about why more stringent identification can't be brought in for users of social media platforms. Facebook told Sky Sports News it would disproportionately affect the population.
A couple of things there when it comes to identification. I'm Zimbabwean, for a little bit of background. So I didn't have an ID until I was about 18, 19, and a passport soon after that when I eventually could leave to go to university. And that's because there's a certain set amount of privilege that comes with being able to access identification back home. And that's just in Zimbabwe. When you think about the UK and the US and access to identifications, I think more often than not, it's women of color who don't have access to those, that sort of government paperwork. So if we were to suddenly create rules that would stop those people because you didn't have government identification from being on the platform, we would disproportionately affect not just women of color in large economies, but people of color generally around the world. We've thought a lot about how we can make sure that we keep the platform safe from inauthentic identification. So how do we allow someone who might be a member of the LGBT plus community who's not ready to be out and doesn't want to use their government name, but does authentically want to engage with people from their communities? But how do we continue to remove people who are using fake accounts for the pure purpose of violating our rules? And how do we go after that behavior, and how do we stop it before it becomes a pattern of behavior?
We at Sky Sports are committed to removing online hate from our platforms. If you see a reply to a Sky Sports post and or content with an expression of hate, please copy the URL or screen grab it and send it to against online hate@skysports.com.